Hey everyone, welcome to Photography Chat Season 2, Episode 32. We're going to have Kelly on here. I'm just going to get her on the chat with us. Thanks everyone for tuning in a little bit early. It's a little earlier than we usually do it, but we're all about accommodating here. So we're just, helping things fit in for Kelly. Let's get her on here. All right. Hello. Maybe? Hello.
Hi.
How's it going?
Good. How are you? Sorry, I'm just trying to figure out how to set up my camera where it will stay still. There. That seems pretty good.
No problem. It's looking like it's really good there.
Yeah. How are
Yeah.
you?
I'm not too bad. I am in Kamloops right now, and
Oh, you're in Canada.
it's cleared up a little bit. Like yesterday was like super smoky and gross and sketchy because there was a bunch of parts of different parts of Kamloops that were on fire,
Yeah.
and we had a bunch of rain and a little bit of thunder last night, which was a
Oh,
tiny bit alarming because was a
yeah.
bit worried that maybe that would make more fires, but
Yeah, totally.
it's kind of cleared up today. Oh,
It's hard to keep it still. Okay, that should work. Just want
no
to touch.
problem. How are
Um,
things where you're at?
Good. It's also been really smoky, but today was clearer. I'm not that far from you. I'm only like 2 hours away. I didn't.
Nice.
We're so close. Um, yeah, it's been super smoky. Like one day we were driving home from work and it looked like the apocalypse. It was super dark. Like it looked like it was sunset or even later. And it was like 3 p.m.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that happened to me the other day. I was driving back from Cranbrook. I went up there to shoot an event for a friend, and it was like 4 in the afternoon, and I was coming like through just outside of Golden on the way to Revelstoke,
Yeah.
and it felt like it was like 8 at night with like how dark it had gotten, like super
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. It's really scary. It's really freaky. Yeah, luckily it's cleared up a bit, but yeah, there's fires all over the place. And the lightning, like people think like the rain is probably good and rain is good, but like lightning can
Not
just
so good.
spark more fires. Yeah. Yeah, it's really freaky.
And you're
Yeah.
doing tree planting up there right now, right?
Not at the moment, actually. I'm doing
Okay.
a job that's a lot weirder than tree planting. It's cone picking. So
Okay.
yeah, we're like picking pine cones off of the trees, and basically they use the seeds out of the cones to grow seedlings that we later plant.
Oh, that's
Another
kind of cool.
cycle. Yeah. Yeah, this is kind of cool. It's a weird job though. it's it's funny. It's like hard to believe we're getting paid for it after planting, because planting is such a hard job, and then cone picking is really not. So
So you
yeah,
just kind of like walk around with a basket and pick cones off of trees and
kind of. Yeah, for the most
wow,
part. Yeah, we like clip them out of the trees with these like shears, and then break them off the branches and fill buckets with them.
that's
Yeah,
wild.
yeah,
So
yeah,
it's still like forestry adjacent, but a
yeah,
little bit different.
yeah, yeah. It's still part of silviculture. It's just a different part of the process. Yeah, and the season for it's short. Like I think they only really do it in August, sometimes September. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah. What are
cool.
you doing in Kamloops?
I was just driving through because like Cranbrook to Vancouver is a bit of a long haul to do in one drive. I used to live here with my ex-wife, and she's still here. My dogs live here, so just
Oh,
stopped on the way through to like hang out with the dogs for a bit because I don't get to see them very often.
cool.
And all my family lives in Kamloops too,
Oh yeah.
so it was nice to catch up with them as well and see my nieces and nephews. And
Aw, nice. Do you live in Vancouver now?
yeah, I moved to Vancouver in May.
Oh,
Um, got
awesome.
out of Toronto because
Nice.
COVID just sort of ruined it a bit.
Yeah, totally. The West Coast is a little more relaxed.
Yeah,
For yeah, yeah. It's funny because we met in Toronto actually, and now here we are,
that's
the other side
right.
of the country. Yeah.
Yeah, so are You guys just out here for the season, or did you move out to BC for good?
I live in BC now. Yeah. Well, I've been coming out here for the past like 7 years now. This is 7 years to work, and my seasons have been getting progressively longer as the years go on. So, but I've wanted to move out here for many years. So, last fall I decided to stay out here. So I live in Victoria now. Well,
Oh,
not,
nice.
but I'll be going back there. Yeah.
Well, you'll be even closer then.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. Yeah. Yeah, Victoria is amazing. The island, especially, is really amazing. I love living there. Yeah, it's so
It's
special.
really beautiful there. My partner likes spending a lot of time out in Salt Spring. That's where her sister lives, and
Oh, nice. Yeah, Salt Spring. I haven't been there, but I've heard it's amazing.
it's really beautiful.
Yeah,
I like spending time out there and just Victoria in general. I haven't been to the island in a few years, but definitely overdue for a visit.
yeah, totally. Yeah, it's super beautiful.
So those photos that you shared that I put on the promo post, was that all stuff that you've taken recently on the island, or
I think most of it, I think all of it was shot on the island. Yeah, yeah,
that's cool.
shot in Tofino, and
Nice.
some of the other stuff was shot in either in Victoria. Everything that looks indoors is in Victoria, and stuff that's outside, a bunch of that is Tofino or like along the Wandafuka Trail, which is near Port Renfrew, which is
Okay.
what Victoria. Yeah, so like the pictures where um, there's two women laying down and they're kind of covered in seaweed. That was near Port Renfrew, and yeah, the picture, the one where it's one woman like wrapped around a rock, that was
Yeah.
Tofino, and then the one that's like kind of a pretzel of all these people melting together, that was in Tofino as well.
Cool. I like that rock one. That's a cool one.
Yeah, thank you. I really like that one a lot. Yeah, her
Yeah,
body.
so I was curious, like, what gave you the idea for that kind of creative?
The rock picture, you mean?
Yeah.
Um, that that photo and a bunch of photos like it together kind of came about spontaneously, which was really fun, and it was kind of just an experimental thing. I was on a surf trip with a bunch of friends in Tofino, and I wanted to take photos of them, and it was a really interesting experience because some of the girls on the trip I didn't know that well before the trip, but we decided to do a bunch of nude photography together. Really sweet, and we became all like way closer from, well, not just the photography but the trip. So it was kind of the starting point of a lot of really amazing friendships. But
Oh, did I lose you there?
and are you there? Looks like it's just loading.
Oh, there you go.
Okay, sweet. Did you catch the last thing I said?
I lost a lot. The last part I heard was it was a really interesting way to like get to know people kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I wanted to shoot some photos about by these rocks on Chesterman Beach because it was just really beautiful. And there's this section where you can only get to it at low tide, basically. At high tide, you can't, and it's like otherwise a little island. So we went there, and we just kind of started taking pictures, and I wanted to take pictures specifically around the rocks because they were really beautiful. And then we found this one rock that just was kind of a circular shape, and it just looked like a perfect way for someone to wrap their body around. So yeah, that's how that one came about, and it really worked out well that the person who posed for that photo, her name is Merv, she just has these tattoos all over her body of these lines, and the way that the lines kind of mimic the shape of the rock just worked out really well. Um, but yeah, otherwise it was very it was kind of spontaneous in the moment that most of those photos happened, other than the fact that I wanted to shoot them there.
Yeah, I like the tattoo as well too. It looks really cool how it like really follows the rock there. That's neat how it all kind of just organically happened for you.
Yeah, yeah, it's fun when that works out, and when the people who are modeling for photos are as much of a part of the creative process, and it's collaborative. I really like that too. Yeah.
Yeah, that's how I kind of like to do it too. Like I've only shot with people that I've kind of known a bit, and we've like worked together on like the idea to of like what we're gonna shoot. Um, I've never really gone into something where it's like I have this idea and I just want you to like do what I want kind of thing.
Yeah,
It's always been more fun to be collaborative with them.
totally. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's kind of weird. Then it feels a little bit less like a person as a prop, and they're
Yeah,
part
exactly.
of the process, right? Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what got you into photography originally?
Oh, I feel like I've probably been interested in it and taking pictures since I was like in high school because we had a dark room at my high school. I was pretty lucky, and we could use 35 millimeter film cameras. So that's where I first kind of learned how to do that. But I didn't do that much at the time, like just kind of taking pictures for fun with friends. And then when I went to university, I studied art and I took a couple photo classes, but actually not that many. So since finishing university, I'd never really intended to delve that much into photography, but I've just been living on the road so much and like planting and moving around and never really staying in the same place too long. So photography just seems like the natural choice because you can take it with you everywhere, you know, because when I was in school I was doing a lot of like video and sculpture and stuff like this, but you need so much equipment and you can't take it with you, and yeah, and studio space and stuff. But photography you can take on the road, like a camera doesn't take up much space and you just drop
Yeah,
the photo at a lab. Yeah.
that's cool.
Yeah.
So have you always worked with film primarily, or did you do like some digital first and then enjoy film more, or you kind of mix and match the two of them, or
I don't do any digital anymore, actually. But yeah, I used to do a lot of digital. Like in school, I did a little bit of digital, and I had a digital camera when I was like a teenager, and I took a lot of photos with that. But like nothing very interesting. Just like I said, like just taking pictures of friends. Um, but then in university, later in university, we did a project where we used a medium format camera, and I really liked that. I really liked the,
nice?
yeah, how crisp and large the images can be. Um, and yeah, and my digital camera, I still have the one I had when I was in high school. It's not very good, and I just haven't bought another digital camera because I really like film. So I just happen to always use film because that's what I have. Um, yeah, and I mean, digital cameras are pretty expensive up front to buy, but
Yeah.
once you start shooting, it's way cheaper than film because film is so expensive. But I can't take that like leap of buying a digital camera because it's such a big upfront cost. But
It is a very big upfront cost.
yeah,
And like I kind of caved and I bought like a decent digital a few years back,
oh yeah,
but I still don't use it very often. Like
yeah,
I still kind of like I brought it with me on this trip and I maybe took like 20 or 30 photos with it, and then the rest was just on film cameras.
oh yeah.
So I can kind of feel that. Did you end up getting your own medium format after that experience, or do you just primarily use 35 millimeter now?
Yeah, I have a medium format camera. I didn't buy one right away. I used to work as part of a collective with another person. We were just a two-person collective, and we bought
Okay.
a medium format camera together. Um, but then it ended up working out that it made more sense for just one of us to have it because we weren't in the same place for very long. So she ended
Mhm.
up taking it, but I bought the exact same one. So and it was the same one we used in school. Yeah. So, but yeah, I really like using medium format a lot. I do take a little bit of 35 millimeter, but most of the stuff you see on my Instagram, for example, is all medium format for the
Oh,
most part.
nice. What kind of medium format is it?
It's a Mamiya 645.
Nice.
Yeah. How about
Those
you?
are.
Do you have a medium format?
Oh man, I have like a very serious problem with gas. So I've got a couple of them. The latest one was I picked up a Fuji GW690. So it's
Oh,
like the big rangefinder 6x9, and
Oh,
it's such a cool camera to use, but it makes my like heart hurt and my wallet bleed a little bit because
yeah.
you only get 8 shots out of each roll.
I know. It's
Um,
so expensive.
it
Yeah.
it's like hella expensive.
Yeah.
And then I've got a Bronica SQ AI, which is like a 6x6.
Oh yeah, I used to have the same one. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
they're great. I love the Bronica. The
yeah.
batteries piss me off sometimes because every once in a while it'll decide to act up and not fire, and then you got to fuck around with the batteries to
Oh,
like get it to work right. Because mine, I don't know why Bronica decided to do this, but there's like this little plastic cartridge that holds the batteries in place, and then you put the plastic cartridge in,
yeah.
and mine never came with that.
Uh,
So mine works with like a concoction of like leftover Pizza Hut boxes and tinfoil
oh,
that's like all
weird.
shoved in.
Oh, that's so strange. Yeah, I used to have to do that with a 35 millimeter camera of mine too because something was wrong with the battery. Um, what are they called? The little connections
Yeah,
between. Yeah, I don't know what that's called. The word.
battery terminals.
Yeah, or like the connector thing, the little tiny, like I don't know what was wrong with it, but basically I had to put a piece of cardboard, a small piece of cardboard in there to like fill in the gap, and then it
Mm.
worked. It was so strange. Yeah. Yeah.
The funny workarounds you have to do with cameras.
Yeah. It's kind of fun learning how to deal with it yourself because I mean there's unless you live in like Toronto or Vancouver, it's hard to find people who can fix cameras who know enough about film cameras because they're so outdated now. Or in Kamloops, actually, there's a guy who knows a lot about cameras, but it's the only person in BC who I know of outside of like the big cities.
Are you talking about John Enman?
I actually don't know his name, but he's the guy who has the shop, the camera house. If that's the.
Oh, the camera. Okay, so I'm not familiar with the camera house guy, but there's another guy in Kamloops that he's the first camera store that I ever went into when I
Oh,
started like shooting like way back in the day, and he owns Enman's Camera on the North Shore.
oh, oh, wow! I haven't been there. Okay, interesting.
Yeah, he's still there. Like it's shit, he's probably been there like maybe 40 odd years,
Oh wow.
something like that. Like I mean, I've been going to his shop since I was like 18, 19, and yeah, 40 this year, so he's been around for a while.
Oh, awesome! Wow, I can't believe I've never heard of that. Well,
Yeah, and
next.
he's a neat dude. I try and make a point to whenever I come through Kamloops to pop by and say hi to him and make sure
Oh,
his shop's still there.
nice. Oh, that's sweet. It's cool that there's still people around who have shops open for that kind of thing to help out people like us who are still trying to shoot film.
Yeah, exactly. It's
Yeah.
really nice because it's getting harder to find. Like I haven't been able to find too much in Vancouver compared to like what I got so used to in Toronto. Like
Yeah.
I didn't realize how much downtown camera spoiled me, but
Yeah, they're pretty good.
they're super good. I am actually still mailing my film back to them because I haven't
Yeah.
really found anyone I've been super happy with in Vancouver yet. But I do like buying film from Nicole at Photo. She's amazing.
Oh, okay, cool. That's funny. I actually just mailed film to Downtown Camera just last week because of well, there's a good lab in Victoria actually,
Okay.
but yeah, I really like Downtown Camera. They do a really good job and they're pretty like it's a pretty fair price for what they're doing.
It's
Yeah.
an extremely fair price. Like
Yeah.
that's even like with having to mail it back there and all of that, like it's still more affordable.
Yeah, it's still cheaper than yeah, than doing it like for me to do it in Victoria. I think it's much cheaper for me to just mail it to Toronto, unfortunately. Yeah.
And I like the quality of the scans. Like
Yeah.
Downtown Camera has been taking my money since like 2017.
Yeah. Yeah. Making
And
a lot of my money.
yeah,
Yeah.
a couple years ago, someone asked me like how much money I spent on photography, and I started thinking about it, and I was like, I don't want to play this game anymore. Like, it's not fun. Um,
Someone asked, what about ABC Photo? Aren't they in Vancouver?
I've
Maybe you know
never heard of them.
that. Yeah, I don't know Vancouver's labs very well.
I've used rocket reproduction a few times, and like they're okay. Um, I've been like happy-ish with what I've gotten out of them, but I've noticed that they've like scratched negatives a few times, and
Ooh, yeah,
that kind of bums me out.
yeah.
And I looked at using the lab because a lot of friends use the lab, and their development price is really reasonable. It's like $8, but they charge like 20 something for scanning, and
Oh yeah, a lot. Yeah,
yeah, and I'm just like, that's what like downtown camera charges me for like everything. So
yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah,
yeah, was it? Oh, John calls it his crack addiction. Pretty sure crack is cheaper.
yeah,
Yeah, but I don't think crack feels as good as like when you nail a really good shot. You know, maybe a little
yeah,
bit. I've never done crack, so I can't attest to that.
yeah. I bet. But also the come down from film photography when you messed up a roll, and or the roll doesn't even exist because something messed up in the camera. You somehow expose the whole camera to light or something. That's quite the low.
Oh man, I've never done that, opening the
Really?
camera before you've rewound it and you have that total like heartbreak of like, oh my God, I did a bad thing.
Yeah,
I've
yeah,
totally done that more times than I'd like to admit. And then you
yeah.
quickly close it because you're like, maybe if I close it fast enough, it won't be ruined.
It's too late. It's already gone.
Yeah, you already let the light in and it's totally fucked. And
Yeah.
what's been like what's been your highest note and lowest note so far with photography?
Oh. Um. Hmm. That's a good question. I would say, well, I'll start with the low just because we were already just talking about it. But I shot a roll of film a few years ago when I was on a road trip with a couple friends. And I was so excited about this roll of film. I thought it was probably some of the best photos I had ever taken. And to this day, I think it could have been. And and then when I went to go take it out of the camera, I found that like the roll had never attached to the sprocket. It had never even went through. Yeah, it was just like, yeah, it never took a picture. Yeah, and I
Oh
thought,
man.
yeah, that was heartbreaking. It took me a long time to recover from that. And then something similar happened to me last year. I shot a roll of film that I was also really excited about. It wasn't nearly um, as important as this other roll of film. That one was far more heartbreaking, but there were still some really good shots on it. And I took the roll of film out, and then I don't know what happened to it. Basically, I lost it somehow and never found it. So that's super heartbreaking. But
What you said there for your low was my friend Chris. The exact same thing happened to him when we were taking photos in Edmonton in 2018. And he was getting some bangers. Like he was super stoked about it. The light was really beautiful,
yeah,
and he was just like fuck. Because he was just like, I'm getting so many photos out of this, and like he hit like 38, and then it got to like 40, and then he's like, okay, something's not right here. And he opened it up
yeah,
and it was just
yeah. I
still
remember
there.
realizing also that something wasn't right. I think the same thing happened. Like the counter just kept going, or something was going on weird with the camera, and I was like, "Oh no, this is something is wrong here." But yeah, stuff like that has happened to me more times than I would like to admit, and I don't know how. I've worked with cameras so long, and this stuff still keeps happening all the time. But yeah, and for I just thought of a good high one. I think there's been a lot of good moments, and actually, you asking me for an interview is definitely a high note for sure. It's
Really?
yeah, definitely so flattering.
Uh,
But another one was I shot earlier this spring. The photos are on my Instagram, so you can see them. But I shot a couple nude for the first time, and it was also their first time being photographed together nude. So it was a first for all of us, and like they were nervous, I was nervous, but it actually was amazing, and I'm so happy with the photos and the way they turned out. And but the best part was like talking to them after, and just them saying that they got a lot out of it and they felt really comfortable and they were so happy they did it was pretty awesome. And then I shared those photos, and then another friend of mine contacted me and wanted the same thing. She wanted to do the same thing with her partner, and that was just so flattering. First of all, like to be asked that, and then also that people are comfortable enough to do that and like go outside of their comfort zone if they'd never done that before. Um, so yeah, I think that was that was pretty sweet. And a bunch of those photos are on my Instagram. You can check them out, but they're like kind of couple photos. Yeah.
That's a really beautiful thing to be part of, though.
Yeah, yeah, totally.
That's
Yeah.
neat. So do
Yeah.
you feel you might do more of that stuff if it comes up, or?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, I love doing stuff like that. I just think it's especially so cool when, yeah, people haven't done that before. And, oops, sorry. My phone's just telling me
No problem.
low battery, so I'm gonna have to plug it in a second, but that's okay. Um, but yeah, it's just really cool when people like they want to push themselves like that, and then but they're maybe nervous, and then they end up being really happy with the results. I think it's super awesome. And for me, it was the same thing too. I was like really nervous, like how am I going to direct two people in such an intimate setting? It's so strange, and I had never done it before, and no one had ever told me how to do that. They don't teach you that in school, so it's much more of an interpersonal skill, right? Um, so yeah, that was super cool.
So what helped you get more comfortable with that?
I probably just shooting nude photography in general. I think it's a blessing and a curse because, well, I mostly just started doing it with friends, but then pretty much everyone has been a friend, but initially with my like really close friends, people who I was already really comfortable with.
Hmm.
Um, but then the more I did it, the more I guess desensitized I became to it, which yeah is a blessing and a curse because it means I'm very comfortable with it, but um, that can be a negative thing too because then I forget sometimes that other people this is super nerve wracking for them, and I have to like be very sensitive of that and the fact that like I have to make sure I'm constantly going out of my way to make people feel comfortable, but it's easy to forget when you're comfortable with it. But yeah, um, but I guess like shooting a lot of nude photography made me super comfortable with that. So then like shooting two people at the same time, like a couple, is like kind of the next um, step, I guess. But it's definitely a huge jump because I think it's so intimate.
Yeah, and was it a little easier because like they were a couple, so they kind of had like their own sort of like natural comfort with each other, and you were able to like riff off of that, or?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So like the first couple I shot getting started was definitely like a little not awkward. Awkward is the wrong word. Just like it wasn't quite like natural yet because they didn't know what to do or how to be directed and stuff like that. So I just would tell them I would start directing them at first, but once they kind of like got comfortable and we'd been doing it for a bit, then they would kind of just like start doing their own thing. And then I became like kind of invisible in the background.
That's cool.
Yeah.
JR made a comment here that they prefer the term normalized,
Right.
which I think is probably a better term than desensitized a bit, because there shouldn't be anything wrong with like nudity and stuff like that, but like North
Yeah.
American culture has kind of sensationalized it a bit.
Yeah.
And, just because someone's naked doesn't mean it's like sexual and things like that,
Yeah.
which a lot of people tend to assume, which is not a healthy thing.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and then
Absolutely.
there's a question here. Has it gotten easier over time to translate the ideas you have for shots or concepts into reality?
Uh, yeah, absolutely. And I think um, just the more I shoot and take pictures that I like imagine and want to shoot with friends, for example, the more I do it, the more comfortable I am asking people to do those things with me. And so I feel like a couple of years ago I might have had ideas for photos, but I wouldn't have had like the confidence to ask people to do that, or the comfort, or maybe they wouldn't have the comfort to do that with me either. So I feel like just doing it more over time, they've 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 progressed in that way and they've gotten better. Yeah. Hmm.
Uh,
Sorry, I'm reading this here.
yeah, Chris likes to be the devil's advocate.
Yeah.
Chris says, I don't know. I think normalized has baggage because most people use the term to describe when people normalize bad stuff, like normalizing violence, etc.
Right.
And like that's true too, but you know, you can put a negative connotation on a lot of things. Um,
Yeah. And unfortunately,
Normalizing violence should never be a good thing, though. Sorry,
yeah.
go ahead.
Oh, sorry, I interrupted. I was just going to say, I mean, sexuality and nudity in general in our society already has like a negative connotation, which
Yeah.
is unfortunate, but uh, but that's the reality. Yeah.
Well, and it really shouldn't. Like, I remember the story that like an old rapper friend was telling me he went on a tour in the UK and he'd never
Mhm.
been there before. And it's like 3 in the afternoon and they're watching some TV and there's this game show and all of a sudden there's just this like huge floppy dick on the screen and he's like, "Oh my God, what the fuck is this doing on like a TV show? Like what?" And the guy that was hosting them was like, "What's the big deal? It's just a dick."
Yeah.
Like he's like, "But it's on. It's 3 o'clock. Kids could be watching this." He's like, "Yeah, kids probably are watching this. Like, what's the big deal? It's just a dick. Like, you know,
Yeah.
a lot of people got dicks. They're out there." And he's just like,
Yeah.
"Well, but that would never happen in like, Canada or North America." It's like, yeah, well, maybe you guys are the problem.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I mean, yeah, if they haven't already seen one already, I'm sure they'll see a dick at some point in their lives. That's,
Exactly.
I'm sure.
Like,
Yeah.
or encounter a dick in various different types.
Yeah.
Not just attached to people, but people who just are dicks. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, is there any like projects or anything that you have on the go or on like on your mind that you want to like build on what you've been working on so far?
A little bit, but to be honest, it has been very difficult to do much creative work during the planting season, which just ended a few weeks ago. So I had a few weeks off, so I was doing a little bit of photography, and now I'm working again. So I'll still find time to do some stuff, but usually like during the season, um, well, actually, I take a lot of pictures of tree planters and just my friends in general during the season, but it's usually limited to that. In this season, actually, I didn't take very many pictures of planting at all. Um, but I was the past few weeks I was traveling with some friends and I did a few photos that I'm excited about and I kind of want to build on and keep working on. And they were kind of following the same vein of like, nudes and nudes with interspersed in nature somehow. But I'm trying to move towards something a little bit more candid, maybe a little less posy and a little less structured.
Mm,
Um, so for example, I took a bunch of pictures of just like my friends bathing in rivers or lakes. But yeah, just because it was kind of we were all living in our cars and just living on the road, and that was how we showered. And I just kind of wanted to document that because I think it's kind of beautiful and interesting.
that's very cool. Um, like for some candid shots that are like a little bit more like raw and stuff like that, like some of the ones that stand out for me are like, have you looked at any work by Larry Clark at all?
I don't think so, no.
He did some interesting stuff in Tulsa in like the 50s, 60s, and maybe 70s. That's all like
Okay.
very candid. And it was like around the drug scene in Tulsa at that time and some very visceral, candid stuff in there. And
Oh,
also, Ed and Deanna Templeton have like a really, they got some really cool intimate, candid stuff of each other, like over the years, that they
Oh, cool.
post sometimes on their Instagrams, but are also in some books that they put out over the years. I haven't had a chance to track down any of Ed's books, but they're definitely on the list of books that I'd like to hunt down at some point.
Sweet. Yeah, I'll have to check that out. And Lewis Clark, is that the name you said?
Larry Clark.
Larry Clark. Okay. Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah,
would definitely check that out.
if you ever come through Vancouver or if I end up in Victoria, I'll bring the Tulsa book and you can have a look
Oh,
at it.
yeah. That would be awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, it was
What?
a very.
Sorry, I'm
Uh,
just reading.
Chris says, "Nice. I used to plant trees. I wish I had a camera back then. There were so many interesting things going on in that crowd."
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. It's a lot of fun to document. I mean, I took pictures of people tree planting, just like life in camp or like actually on the block planting and everything in between, for like so many years. And this year for some reason I didn't, which is really weird. And last year I didn't do that many either, but I'm sure I'll make my way back to it. Yeah. But yeah, it's
Have you done anything with that work? Like put together like a photo book or something of like what that experience was like, or
Yeah, a few years ago when I was part of the collective I was talking about, we put together a photography book, two versions of a photography book of photos of tree planters. But actually we didn't shoot many of the pictures. We shot some of them, but we wanted it to be like very collaborative. So we invited other
mm.
photographers to put their work in. And we had a couple exhibitions of they weren't just photography, but mostly photo based of like a lot of planting and the books and some other things as well. Yeah.
That sounds really rad.
Oh, and also the documentary 1 Million Trees. I'm not sure if you've heard of it. It was through CBC. Um, the director was someone who contributed to the first version of the book, and so when he made that movie, he asked myself and my collaborative partner at the time to contribute photos. So we put some photos of tree planters in the film, so they're in like the credit scenes.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
I'll have to check that one out. That was 1 million trees.
yeah,
Nice.
yeah. It's on CBC. It's free to watch online. Yeah, it's like 45 minutes or something. Yeah.
Very cool. So how did you get into tree planting? Just applied for it one day or
I had a bunch of friends who had done it, and it sounded really interesting. Just sounded like a really cool crowd of people. Like all the people I knew who did it were really interesting people who lived life a little bit, alternatively, I guess. Not everyone, but the people who I happened to know at the time who did it, and rumors of making really good money and living out in the bush, and apparently the parties are wild. So I wanted to go try it out, and I thought I would only do 1 year, and here I am 7 years later.
oh, holy shit.
Yeah, yeah, it's addicting. It's really addicting. It's it's hard to go back to another job because like the lifestyle it allows you is, yeah, I don't know, especially if you want to pursue something else, like if you want to pursue art or photography, or you know if you want to be a musician or you want to be a ski bum, you want to surf all winter or travel, it's kind of perfect because then you can work part of the year and take the rest of the year off, which a lot of people do.
Oh shit, that's cool. I didn't really so like you only work for that like the tree planting season and then you have like the rest of the time to pursue other endeavors.
Yeah, exactly. Not everyone does that, but a lot of people do. A lot of, well, some there's a bunch of people in BC like who live in the Kootenays or Whistler or something like that, and they call themselves the Great Canadian Ski Team, and they're yeah, just living off the money they made planting and just skiing all winter. Um, yeah, and a lot of people travel or they'll just kind of stay put and work on other projects. But a lot of people also go to school during that time or they go work another job. So it's different for everyone. Yeah.
Nice. So what do you do in your off time then?
It's different every year. I spent one off season traveling, and the other off seasons, most of them, well, after my first year, I was still in school, so I had a year of school, and then the other years well, I lived in Toronto for a bit, in Montreal for a bit, and then now more recently Victoria, and usually during that time, I'm focusing on art projects, sometimes volunteering, um, lots of hanging out with friends and eating food. And this past winter, I got a little bit into surfing and climbing, so that was pretty cool. But this winter, I would really like to devote a lot more time than I have in the past to art projects. Yeah.
Nice. Have any projects in mind specifically, or just still kind of up in the air?
Oh, loads. Well, I want to definitely develop a lot of the photography stuff I've been working on over the past year or two. I would like to put in an exhibition, ideally. Um, And also last winter, I started working on a video. It's like a claymation video, so it's stop motion using plasticine.
Oh,
Uh,
cool.
yeah, so I haven't finished it yet. I
Oh, did we lose you? Did your phone die? Sorry, folks. I think she'll be back momentarily, hopefully. Oh, I think her battery died. Um, yeah, this JR called it. Um, hopefully she'll plug it in and she'll pop back on. Um, while we're waiting there, we got some active people here in the commentary. Um, let's where is it here? Got a bunch of people that say that they miss Victoria. Um, yeah, that's cool, Morgan. Morgan's he grew up on the island. He's gonna be going back for a vacation in September. What's up, Chris? Um, yeah, lots of sad faces in there. She'll be back though. This is just a momentary blip, so we'll keep the live going, and you guys can just um, deal with listening to me while I try and fill time until Kelly comes back. Um, yeah, Pete says he hates when that happens. We got to do another large format Friday soon. We kind of fell off the wagon with that. I also have to say, after seeing lots of Fat Mike drinking this liquid death stuff on NoFX videos on YouTube, I decided to give it a shot because 7-Eleven has it on sale right now. Oh, here we go. She's back. So, is she back? Yay!
I'm so sorry. I totally knew that was gonna happen too. My phone just died. I just got
Oh,
distracted.
no worries. I figured that was happening. I was just like wasting time by telling people my story of this liquid death stuff, which I think is
Oh,
like Fat Mike from NoFX has something to do with it. Um, the sparkling one, which comes in a black container, is actually quite tasty. This white one, which is not sparkling, I can't recommend it. It tastes like garden hose water.
oh
Like
no.
that taste you get like when you're a kid and you drink out of the garden hose and it kind of has that like hosey taste about it.
Yeah.
That's what this one is. So if you like that taste, go buy this.
Okay.
But if you don't, I would avoid the white can.
Okay. Sounds good. It's a like an alcoholic drink, or
No,
it's
it's
like a
just it's a very metal looking water. Like there's like a burning melty
Oh,
skull face, and
that's kind of cool.
um, it's
Yeah.
liquid death mountain water. It says murder your thirst, and it's drinking water from the Austrian Alps.
Oh, okay. Very fancy and very
7-Eleven had it
metal.
on sale. Yeah, it is very fancy. Um, yeah, the white one's not good though, so I
Okay,
wouldn't go with the white one.
good to know. I've never actually seen it before, but I'll keep that in mind if I see them in the 7-Eleven.
Yeah, they're two for 250 right now, so there's like a deal going on.
Okay, I'll stick
Yeah,
to black.
exactly. And it's what I like about the black one is it's not aggressively fizzy because sometimes when you get that fizzy water, it's like too bubbly, and then it's like you have a sip and you're like all burpy, and you're like that kid that like chugged it in the TikTok video that's like, oh my God, what do I do? And then he bashes his head on the garage door.
Is that a thing?
Yeah. So there's been this like TikTok challenge where people like chug like fizzy water and try not to burp. And there's this like little kid that he chugs one and then he's like, "Oh my God, I don't know, what do I do?" Oh, and he like belches really hardcore and then like turns and smashes his head on his garage door that's like half closed.
Oh,
It's
damn.
so fucking good. I
Yeah,
waste way too much time on TikTok.
I haven't got on that yet. I mean, like, I've been on TikTok a couple times because my sister's really into it, but I haven't seen very many, and I feel like I'm missing out on, a massive part of the modern day right now.
Well, I would say that like you're both not missing out and missing out at the same time. Like hopefully you have like good pals that will send you like the spiciest TikToks out there that are funny because like I do that with some of my friends. Like I'll come across ones that are funny, but the algorithm on TikTok seems to think that I'm a lesbian, so I get like mostly like lesbian TikTok content, which I find
Interesting.
kind of funny. It's like
Yeah.
that or dogs and cats. Like
Okay.
my
So
favorite
it's
one are
on
the
some.
people. Yeah, like so I had no idea that like this was a thing, but like so many people are training their animals to use soundboards so that they can like talk to them.
What?
Yeah, it's like super wild. They have these like buttons that have like different words and they like train their animals, dogs and cats, to just like go to the soundboards where it's like want, treat, or it's like, and then one lady's like teaching her dog how to swear. So it's like fucker, fucking asshole.
Whoa. I need to see this. Yeah, I have been missing out, clearly. I,
That's the
yeah,
best part
didn't
of
even.
TikTok right there. But you were
Yeah,
talking about projects right before you vanished there.
right, I was. What was the last thing I said? Oh, the claymation video. Right.
Yes.
Yeah. I took all the pictures for it, but I haven't edited it yet. But I will do that in the fall when I'm back in Victoria and I have access to a lab. And it shouldn't take me that long. So you'll see it on my Instagram in the fall at some point. So if you pay attention, I guess. Not pay attention. Keep posted on Instagram, I guess. Yeah.
Definitely. I'm excited to check that out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Was there any other ones that you were thinking of doing, or those are just the main ones right now?
That's all I've got right now. A couple other things that aren't actually really photo related. So um, probably doing some illustrations for maybe a t-shirt because I've made a couple t-shirts. Um, so I'm thinking of doing that. Also thinking of maybe getting a tattoo gun and learning how to tattoo. So that's
Oh,
another
wow.
art project, but not exactly photo related. But that's something I'm very interested in doing.
Well, if you
Uh,
need a victim, I'm happy to volunteer.
oh, sweet. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And I can't welch on it because I just put this on the internet. So,
Yeah, yeah, there you go. True.
and then Chris says, "Wait a second, you shot a stop motion project with film?"
Oh, no. I shot it with a digital camera that I rented. It's not actually my own digital camera. Yeah, that would be crazy to shoot that with film. Yeah, wow. That would cost thousands and thousands of dollars. There's no way. Um,
So, what
but
is
yeah,
the claymation video about?
it's it's a landscape that becomes animated through well my hands in the medium of claymation. But the idea is that I'm trying to imagine a future landscape with future plants and what they might morph into and what they might look like as a result of climate change. And some of their changes and morphing is based off of actual predictions that scientists have made about plants on Vancouver Island. Well, I kind of tried to make it local to Vancouver Island, but more generally what scientists expect to happen to certain species of plants. But then I kind of took some liberties with those ideas and kind of exploded with it and let it become its own thing. So it's it's really short. It's probably only going to be 2 or 3 minutes long, and it's just going to kind of follow this landscape as it morphs from one landscape into another. And I have a friend who's a really amazing musician who's going to make a score for it too. So I'm really excited about that.
Very cool. Chris says it sounds like some kind of National Film Board quality stuff.
Wow, that's awesome. I wish that would be sweet.
I
Maybe
mean,
I'll.
it could be.
Maybe.
We all grew up with Black Fly, so like, it's a classic. And Pete says I've been there. Tattoo guns make for great tats.
Yeah.
And he's thought of doing a time lapse with a 4x5. Oh man, that would be crazy to do a time lapse on 4x5.
Wow, that would be cool. Wow.
That'd be a lot of film. But that would be so cool because you could actually like literally like, if you shot it on positive paper, that would be kind of cool because you could like make it almost like a flip book on 4x5.
Right. Yeah. I wonder what kind of, well, they must have some old school projectors that can project that kind of film somehow. Like maybe if you can, I know they do for 35 millimeter cameras, but or film negatives, but I'm not sure about larger negatives. Probably. I just don't know enough about it personally.
Yeah, I've never messed with that. I guess you could do that with 35 millimeter too if you shot it lengthwise so that you could, and then if you shot like reversal film, you could like splice them together and put them into like a 35 millimeter projector, and you can do like,
Yeah.
homemade kind of time lapsey stuff. That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure there's a way to like DIY it, even if there isn't like an actual mechanism that already exists to do it. Like, I mean, you could find a way to, yeah, like you're saying, like attach all the negatives and like kind of if you put them on some sort of a wheel with like a light that will project it, then you could just like kind of, you could even maybe hand wind it somehow. There's got to be something. Someone's
Yeah,
thought
you
of.
could even do like a DIY like projector with have like a little stepper motor or something, so it just like, huh,
Mhm.
this is a great idea that I don't have enough motivation for.
Yeah. Maybe whoever it was who said that they want to do that. Who was that?
Whoa.
PJU Mascus.
Pete Gamascus. Pete is a homie of mine. We have been lacking on doing our large format Fridays. We used to do
Cool.
um, a live the first Friday of every month, but it's been a couple months since we've done it where we talk about large format.
Oh, sweet.
And yeah, Pete is a fantastic large format photographer out in Massachusetts
Oh,
or New Hampshire. I might have been wrong on one of those, but not far from Boston. I know that much.
okay.
And I met Pete through the Jason Lee connection because Pete bought Jason Lee's old Lincoln Town Car and drove it from California back to Massachusetts. And he's keeping the dream alive of the photography Lincoln. So he's still doing New Hampshire. That's the one. So he's still driving around the 94 Lincoln Town Car doing large format photography adventures, and maybe one day I'll I'll buy it off of him.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that'd
it's
be kind of cool.
he needs to make a 4x5 stop motion
Yeah,
video.
that'd be amazing. And JR says he has the medium format projector. Dude, I'm in the Lower Mainland. I would love that. Let's DM me. We'll talk turkey on that. That'd be kind of cool.
Wow, medium format projector. That's awesome.
Crom's like everywhere in New England. It's not far from Boston.
Yeah, it's pretty small, I guess.
Yeah,
Uh,
I miss that area. Boston is like such a cool city to explore.
yeah, I've never been, unfortunately, but it sounds really interesting. I would love to go.
What's been your favorite place you've traveled to so far?
Oh, wow. Favorite place. That maybe hmm.
Or
It
like top three favorite places you've been to so far?
okay. One of them is Portugal for sure. That might be my favorite. Um, Portugal's like such a magical and I think underrated European country. I feel like people don't talk about Portugal that much when they talk about wanting to go to Europe, but it's incredible. Um, it's yeah, I guess it's kind of small, but not really that small. There's a lot of much smaller European countries, but I think it's overshadowed by Spain a little bit. Um, and yeah, I don't know, culturally and historically, it's absolutely beautiful. Um, I had a really amazing experience there because I did a an art residency in Porto. And Porto is also a really underrated city. When people think of Portugal, they think of the Algarve or they think of Lisbon. Um, but Porto is like the second biggest city in Portugal, and it's not super touristy compared to Lisbon, but it's super super beautiful and has so much history, and it's so artistic and so musical, and there's so much culture, and there's so many interesting projects going on there. And there's universities, like it has absolutely everything. And it's a strange mix of old and new. Like everywhere you walk, there's all these old, beautiful buildings that are crumbling, like literally on the shoulders of newer buildings. And it's just this mishmash of all these different time periods. And it's kind of beautiful the way it's crumbling because it's not taken care of the way, Lisbon, the capital city, is taking care of. Everything there is so pristine. Um, but yeah, there's something really charming about it. Um, anyways, top three. I think another one is Hawaii, actually. And I think Hawaii is also a place that people, when they hear that, they associate it with like vacation and resorts. But I didn't do any of that when I went. I went there and I worked in a hostel and like hitchhiked around and did a bunch of hiking and stuff. And it's super beautiful. There's so much biodiversity there and so many interesting animals, and um, the landscapes are just absolutely insane. Like there's an active volcano on the Big Island, so yeah, that's pretty cool. In top three, hmm, maybe even Vancouver Island. I don't know. I love I love BC in general, and Vancouver Island is incredible. It just has a wealth of natural beauty and ancient trees. Um, and along the coast you can see a lot of animals, um, and there's really interesting cultures going on in Vancouver Island too, for sure.
Definitely.
Yeah,
Vancouver Island is, I mean, like BC in general is a very unique place. Like it's
yeah,
almost every kind of climate is here, which I don't think many places can kind of claim that. Like
mhm.
we've got rainforests and regular forests and a desert and some prairie and crazy mountain ranges
Yeah, yeah,
and lots of coastal stuff. Like
yeah,
it's a very cool province to be able to live in.
yeah. There's so much diversity in it. There's so much, like, you drive 2 hours and you're in a completely different landscape. it's
Yeah,
it's cool. Yeah,
yeah, it's cool here. Like it's nice to be back on this side. Like Toronto does have its merits, but I do miss it a lot more than I thought I would.
oh,
Um, which surprised me a bit because I was just like, I was leaving and I'm like, fuck you, Toronto. Like,
yeah.
see you never. And then I'm like, oh man, kind of miss it. Um,
What do you
but
miss?
the conveniences of shit,
Yeah, totally.
because you don't realize how use you get to, it's like, oh, it's like 2 in the morning and I want like this kind of food. You can go find a place that's
Yeah,
probably open that'll have that. Um,
yeah.
and just the
You can find
diversity
anything
of things
you want.
there. Yeah,
Yeah,
you literally, and like the diversity of culture and stuff there
yeah,
was just so wild to see, and like how colorful all the different neighborhoods and stuff were. Like, I spent a lot of time driving around exploring parts of Toronto, and like the like 3.5, almost 4 years I was there, and there's still so much more to see. Like, it's just
yeah,
such a vast place.
yeah, it's massive.
Um, yeah, and then like I'm in Vancouver now, and I'm like, this place doesn't even feel like a fucking city.
Yeah, yeah, it's a completely different vibe. Yeah,
Yeah, very different vibe, but it has a couple of things that Toronto never will.
yeah,
The biggest one being, your half-hour drive from like mountains or the ocean, depending on where you're at. And,
yeah.
Lake Ontario may look like an ocean, but it's
It's
like
not.
it's like the fucking fake Santa from Elf, where it's just like, you're not Santa, you smell like beef and cheese. Like, that's Lake Ontario.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, an hour and a half, or maybe only an hour if you're coming from like North Van, from Vancouver, you're in Squamish, which is like
Yeah.
incredibly beautiful, and there's endless adventure there in
Well,
Whistler.
and even like Mount Seymour and Mosquito Creek and some of that stuff in North Van, like, is pretty cool to adventure in. Yeah, Mosquito Creek is surprisingly beautiful. And, for the name, we haven't come across many mosquitoes there. But it was a nice getaway when we were having the heat dome.
Yeah, yeah,
We went out there, and it was the only way to really describe it, it felt like walking into a cathedral kind of thing. Like when you
wow.
walk into like that big, it feels like it's open forest, but you have all those trees, but it's like the light's kind of just like streaming through all of the really tall trees, and you
Mhm.
can just see like little pokes of like cloud, and it diffuses the light so beautifully.
Yeah,
And you get all these crazy shadows from all the tree branches and stuff, and um, it's so striking. And yeah, I don't know what kind of shoot I want to do it, but I definitely like I would love to shoot in something like that. I just don't know what yet.
yeah, yeah. You should totally do something there. Absolutely. It sounds like an amazing spot. Someone says that you're telling lies.
Oh, that's
Mis-
my partner, Kat. I've I haven't been up there when it hasn't been the heat wave, so
Okay.
you know, I could believe it. It would make sense that um there would be mosquitoes up there because like water and humidity and shit like that.
Yeah. Probably also depends on time of the year too. Yeah, and
Yeah.
temp. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it was insanely hot when we were going up there a bunch, but I think she's been up there a few times without me and has probably encountered mosquitoes that I didn't. The craziest one though, we went out to Mount Seymour to try to go up to Mystery Lake last month, and the path was all snowed in, so we didn't end up going to Mosquito or to Mystery Lake. But it was kind of wild to be in like 30-degree heat but seeing like snowpack still there. And we walked around barefoot in the snowpack while it was like steaming hot. And it was
uh,
such a mind fuck because you're just like the rest of your body is super hot, but your feet are like planted in this like icy snow. And it was kind of a cool feeling.
yeah, yeah. That does sound really, really neat. Yeah, it's opposites happening at the same time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
only in BC
Oh,
or
yeah,
like some other mountainy place. Like I bet you could probably find that in like Colorado or something too.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Like about 2 weeks ago, I was in Squamish, and I went for a hike up on what's the name of it? Wedge Mount. Oh no, it wasn't that one. I did also Wedge Mount. It was Brandywine Meadows. Oh, actually, sorry, this was in Whistler. I was just staying in Squamish at the time. But it was during, well, not the big heat wave, but it was pretty hot. It was still like, I don't know, getting close to around 30 degrees during the day. But we went on this hike, and at the top there were still like massive patches of snow. Um, yeah, and then the other one, Wedge Mount, you go up to a glacier too, and you can walk on these. massive chunks of ice, and it's extremely surreal. It's like it's 30 degrees and the sun is like beating on my skin, and I'm having to put on sunscreen, but I'm also walking on snow.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Yeah, that whole area, like Squamish, Whistler, all of that, like up into Pemberton, is so beautiful in there.
Oh yeah, it's stunning. It's so beautiful. One of my favorite spots. One of the most beautiful drives in BC for sure. Like the sea to sky. It's incredible. Yeah.
That's a great one. I also like the drive a bit on the way to Tofino.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah.
That's kind of a neat one.
Yeah.
It gets a little sketchy, but it's pretty it's cool. I like it up there, and I spent a bit of time in like Ucluelet and in
Mhm.
Tofino.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that area. It's so beautiful. Yeah, so special.
Yeah, I stayed at the hostel in Ucluelet, and there was this the dude that was running it that at the time. He was a bit of a crazy dude that kind of reminded me of like Josh Gad, who played like Olaf from Frozen.
Oh,
Um, he was kind of like if Josh Gad and Jonah Hill had a baby, um, they would have created A.A. Ron. And A.A. Ron was like such a weird dude. Like when we were checking in, he was telling us about his like t-shirt game and how like he travels down to the States to like peep his like sweet t-shirts because he can't find sweet teas that slay the ladies in Canada. So he only
only
gets
fine sweet up
yeah.
here.
So the sweet teas he gets in the US, and he was telling us about how he wanted to build this like hiking in only hostel
Oh.
for babes.
Only for babes.
Yeah, only for babes, and only so that they could hike in, so only the fittest ones could get there.
Yeah, only fit
Um, and I
babes.
was like, dude, but how would you get there? Like, you're not a terribly fit dude. And
You're not a fit hot babe, sorry.
no, but that wasn't, he didn't factor that into his plan. He would just be there somehow. But we went for dinner and we came back, and like the basement, which where the common room was with the TV and everything, all the lights were off, and this couple was trying to make out on the couch, but there's A.A. Ron sitting on the other side of the couch from them. The lights are off, and he had BPM on the cable box, and he was like with his cell phone flashlight on like flash. He was like waving it around and having a rave for one, while this couple was like trying to have a romantic moment. And that's what I think about when I think about Ucluelet.
Weird. What's
Yeah.
the hostel called?
Fuck, I can't remember the name of it. I don't think there's many hostels out there
Yeah.
though.
Yeah, probably
Um,
not. Yeah.
There's like the big main one, but I kind of like staying in hostels. They're always a bit more interesting.
Yeah, oh yeah. Yeah, if you want to socialize and meet some new people, it's definitely the way to go. Hostels are a lot of fun. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Like I used to be like too much of a fancy boy for
Yeah.
for hostels.
Oh yeah. Yeah, the bunk,
And,
all the bed bugs.
well, not
Free lo-
even that. I was just like the idea of like sleeping with strangers kind of weirded me out a little bit.
Yeah.
But my ex-wife convinced me to do the hostel thing because it's very cheap.
Yeah.
And the very first trip we did together when we first started dating, in like, fuck, I think it was like 2007 or something, we went to Seattle to see a show at the Showbox. And we stayed at the Green Tortoise Hostel, which was like right next to the Showbox.
Oh,
And
cool.
it was my very first time ever staying in a hostel. And she's like, well, we'll get a shared couples dorm. So, like, it's only couples that'll be in there. And, it's
Mm,
maximum four couples.
okay.
And so she's like, it won't be as weird. And it's like super cheap. And I'm like, I like cheap because I was broke at the time. So it's like cheap sounded good.
Yeah.
And cheap also meant we could spend more money on booze, which,
There you go.
is always a good thing when
Always a
you're
plus.
exactly when you're in your 20s. Like that's a very important factor to keep in mind.
Yeah.
um but we got in late because the Greyhound was like we took the Greyhound there, which was also cheap, and we found out why it was so cheap, and we never took it again ever after that because it was like a super sketchy adventure. The Greyhound was like that's a whole other story in itself.
Oh yeah.
But when we checked in, I put the key card in and I opened the door, and the very first thing I saw were just these like huge boobs just like flapping around because this lady and her husband were like getting in, and their bed was right next to the door. And I was like, oh shit. And I like slammed the door, and she's like, well, why did you slam the door? I'm like, there's people and um, they're having sex right now. Well, maybe just she's like, well, it's our room too. Like, whatever. She grabbed the key card and went in, and they're pretending to sleep when we went back in there. I just like I felt so bad because I'm like we interrupted their time, and it turned out they were this very sweet couple from Ireland that was on their honeymoon, and
Oh
they ended up being very very nice people. But that was like my indoctrination into hostels.
yeah, that's a
Um,
strange way to be introduced. Also, that seems kind of weird. Like, I understand the couple's dorm room situation, but like, why would you choose to stay there if you want to have sex in there? Like, it would just make sense to get a private room.
yeah, but maybe they were broke too. Like
Yeah.
my actually had this idea. We put like because the each of the couple's beds had like they were bunk beds,
Hmm.
and they were like on their bottom bunk, and we stayed on the bottom bunk. But she grabbed like the sheets from the top bunk and like draped them over, so it was almost like a tent, so it
Oh,
like covered up
yeah.
the other
Okay.
one. It's like getting creative, but the Green Tortoise Hostel in Seattle, very good.
Okay.
Definitely recommend. And then they also have um, another one in San Francisco, which if you're ever headed to San Francisco, the Green Tortoise Hostel in San Francisco, fucking amazing. Like it's whenever I go to San Francisco, like that's the spot I stay in because it's like one of the cheapest places you'll find to stay in the
Oh,
Bay Area. Um, it's just as nice, if not nicer, than some of the boutique hotels that are there. And
wow.
even their private rooms are super cheap. Like if you want to get a private room, they're like hella cheap there, and it's in like a really colorful area too. It's like right in the stripper district, so there's like all sorts of like Garden of Eden and like all these like different things, and um, it's a really colorful neighborhood, lots of really good food. I can't remember the name of the bookstore, but there's a really famous bookstore that's like right around there too,
Oh,
and it's
weird.
not terribly far from like the downtown core and stuff. So
Nice.
it's a very cool spot.
Awesome. Yeah, if I ever make it there, I'll have to check it out. I like the name, the Green Tortoise. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's cool. Like the people that work there are very funky, and like it's been around for ages. So like it's got some interesting culture about it too, which is always kind of fun.
Cool. I will keep that in mind. I would really like to go to San Francisco. I've been there, but only for like a couple hours. I went and got sushi and then left. But I want to spend more time in that city. It seems so interesting.
It's a really fun city. Like
Yeah,
it's one of my favorite places to travel to for sure.
sweet.
Yeah. How long were you in Portugal for?
Um, about 5 weeks. Um, but that was the second time. Oh no, the third time actually I had been there. I had been there for about a month, um, a long time ago, like 10 years ago now, and then I went for about a week, like 4 years ago, and then it was 3 years ago that I went to do the residency, and that was yeah, but 5 weeks. Yeah.
How did you get in on the residency? Was it just something you applied for and you got accepted, or?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think I had just been scouring the internet for residencies because I really wanted to do one and just found, well, I applied to a bunch and this just happened to be one that got back to me. Yeah. Um, it was really special too because it wasn't just a residency, it was kind of, they want to build like an artist community, a temporary artist community. So it's beyond just going to a place and making work. It's about like working collaboratively with other people and creating like a temporary artist house. And So there was 5 of us living there at the time, and we all became super tight within only like 4 weeks, and we put on an exhibition at the end, um, and we did like a kind of workshop discussion symposium kind of style thing at the end. um, yeah, it was incredible. I think mostly for the community aspect. I think that's something that can be hard to find in residencies sometimes, or at least in my experience, because the other residencies I've done have been um, very solo. Just like you kind of go and you quietly work on your own thing. Yeah, so a little bit less about collaboration.
Yeah, and you've got a question. Will you do another residency?
Oh yeah, I would love to. Probably post COVID. That stuff is
Yeah,
kind of on pause right now, unless I happen to find one that was like close to home, but um, like in BC somewhere. But I don't think I'll be going too far until COVID stuff is over. But I would
yeah,
do actually the one in Porto again because it was just so special. Yeah. Um,
that's cool. And what was your most inspiring moment in Portugal?
um, well, the summer before I went and did that residency, I had worked as a firefighter here in BC. Um, and which was 2017, which was like the first year of the really big fires, which is funny now because I think it's probably nothing compared to this year, which is terrifying. But I took a bunch of photos of my experiences firefighting, and and I really wanted to work on that a little bit more. And Portugal that year also had some pretty devastating fires, so I wanted to do a stop motion project about while in Portugal. And actually, the word inspiring, I'm not sure if that's like appropriate for this moment in time because I'm not sure if it was actually inspiring. It was quite heartbreaking actually. But me and two of the other artists went to go visit one of the sites that had been like pretty devastated by fires, and that's where I shot a bunch of photos and shot my stop motion. And yeah, I wouldn't say that moment was inspiring really. It was, yeah, it was more sad, but going there and seeing it firsthand was pretty eye-opening. And not just for me, but for the other artists who came with me. So one of the other artists who came with me is more of a poet and performance artist, and she wrote a poem about the experience she had there, and then she ended up recording her voice performing the poem, and we put it on top of the video, and all of that coming together to make this work about this experience, I think was an inspiring moment. But um but maybe, yeah. Also, it's hard to choose just one moment, but the open studio that we had, so we turned the house into like a gallery basically, and invited the public to come in and check it out, and had a bunch of food and a bit of a party, and um, it had like a big discussion with everyone. That was pretty incredible too, because it really like kind of brings home this sense of community and also being able to share it with other people.
Very cool. And you got another question. Who was the poet and poem?
The poet, her name is Colette. I'm not sure if she actually has Instagram. Um, if she does, she's not super active on it, but I will find it and I will post it in here if I can do that, or send it to you and you can post it.
Yeah.
But I don't actually know if she has Instagram. I'll have to look. Um, and the poem is I'll have to find the video and send you a link to it because the poem is performed on there. I don't know if
Okay.
it's anywhere else. Um,
Well,
I don't.
I'll add it to the archive thing when you share it there. When I upload the stuff, I'll put the link on it.
Oh, awesome! Thank you. That would
Yeah.
be, yeah.
The residency thing sounds so cool. Like we have a mutual friend who did a residency in Amsterdam, um,
Oh yeah.
which is kind of wild. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, she's very cool.
Oh, she did a
And it
residency there. That's awesome. But it makes sense. She was studying art there.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's super cool. Yeah, I used to live when I lived in Toronto in her house. She wasn't living there at the time, but it was like her place. I lived with her sister.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
That was the one that was right by Little Portugal.
Yeah, Little Italy, yeah,
Or
but
Little Italy, yeah, sorry.
pretty close to Little Portugal as well. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. It was super cool. Her sister is also, she's an incredible musician. Yeah,
very
yeah.
cool. Yeah, I went and took some pictures of her there with her work, the cut up bodies one. I can't remember what she called
Oh,
it. Right before she left for Amsterdam.
oh, sweet. Yeah, she had some of those in the house. Yeah, that's so cool. Yeah, she's an amazing artist too, and a really nice person. Yeah.
Yeah, the garage studio was pretty cool.
Yeah, they've done so much with that place. They've done so many like music videos and um yeah, I can't remember if it was Meg or someone else who was living there, but they started doing yeah, like these kind of live performances. Um kind of riffing on Tiny Desk concerts, but they called it
Okay.
yeah,
At the Tiny Witch, sorry?
Tiny Deck.
I like that, the Tiny Deck concerts.
Yeah, I think you can find it on YouTube. But yeah, they have some really, really awesome videos. Some of the other people who were living there were photographers and videographers as well, so they would film the performers really beautifully. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the other part of Toronto that I miss a lot is just that the kind of arts and culture that
Hmm.
go on there. There just seems to be a much more vibrant community that's there.
Totally. It's yeah, very creative. There's so much going on in the art scene there. It's incredible. I was thinking about that recently, how in BC, like, I mean, there is quite an art community and scene, but after living in places like Toronto and Montreal, it's definitely not quite the same. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that there is such beautiful nature here and we have such nice weather, so everyone's outside doing things.
Yeah,
Whereas, you know, in Ontario or Quebec, like it's so much colder and there's like a little bit less to do outside, so people get creative with their time. Yeah, and
that's
with their
very true. Like the weather in Ontario sucks
yeah.
all the
Yeah,
time.
yeah. I mean, we have nice summers, but it's not long enough.
Well, kind of, but the humidity, holy shit.
Yeah.
Like I've never had to deal with humidity like that ever before in my life, and
Mhm.
I learned new ways to hate my body that I didn't know were possible in my first summer in Toronto. Like it was just so bad.
Soaking wet at all times.
Yeah, but exactly. Like
Yeah.
that the feeling of like you just had a shower and you just dried off, but then you're like already soaked before you put clothes on and you're like, what the fuck just happened?
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
Someone's asking, what was your favorite memory from the Toronto art scene?
Oh, probably Nuit Blanche. Yeah. Going to Nuit Blanche was pretty incredible. I mean, there was loads, so many amazing galleries there. There was a few kind of like more DIY art galleries. Forgetting the name. It was like a shipping container project. Do you remember this? I'm not sure if they're still doing it.
Oh, is
Uh,
that one that's like down off of Bathurst?
I honestly can't remember where it was, to be honest, but it was basically just a big shipping container that they painted white and turned into a small gallery. Um, and they had some like affiliated side projects too, and they had some really cool shows. Um, oh, what is it called? I'll find out what it's called and I'll link that to you as well because I unfortunately can't remember the name.
Yeah, I think I missed out on that one. Um, but I even like the zine fairs and stuff like that were so cool to go check out.
Oh,
And
yeah, Kanzine. Kanzine was
yeah,
awesome. Yeah,
Kanzine was amazing.
yeah. I actually only went once to Kanzine, unfortunately, but Montreal has a similar um, zine fair. It's actually bigger. It's called um, oh, what is it called? Expo Zine. Yeah, and it's massive. I think it's the biggest in North America. So I went to that, I think, 4 years in a row, which was amazing. It's wow, incredible. And I'm not entirely sure how it compares to Kanzine because I only went once, but I get the feeling Kanzine is a little bit more geared towards has a lot more like comics and things like that. And Expo Zine was a little bit more like DIY zine, like scrappy, make it yourself kind of stuff. Yeah. They also have that in Toronto, but I feel like they just had a little bit different atmospheres in that way. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I never really got to see the Montreal scene too much. Like I always wanted to explore it more, and that was kind of like the plan pre-COVID was
Oh
to
yeah.
spend a bit more time there, and then COVID kind of ruined that idea.
Damn. Yeah. Well, in the future, hopefully. Montreal has an amazing art scene also, and music. Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Well, I really appreciate you spending some time chatting with me about like your projects and your experiences, and it's been really cool getting to know you a bit more.
Yeah. Thanks so much. Thank you so much for having me on here. It's been really nice to chat.
Of course, I've loved your work for a long time, so it was cool to have you on.
Oh, thank you. Thanks so much. And thanks for doing this project of interviewing people. That's, yeah, really lovely.
Yeah, it it kind of came up by accident um, because of the pandemic.
Yeah.
Um, I was seeing all these other people doing lives, and I was like, "What is this live thing about?" And I turned it on a couple of times when I was just like cooking dinner and kind of like did this like cooking with Merlin thing where I would
Oh,
just like put my camera on the stove and just like as I was cooking dinner, like listen to music or whatever, people would come in and like write comments and ask what I was cooking and shit. And then I figured out you can pull someone in and like share video with someone, and we ended up just like talking about a bunch of photography stuff. And then someone's like, you should just do this about photography. Um, and that's how like photography chat ended up happening. My friend Jason Moore, which is kind of funny calling him friend because we've never actually met in real life. We've only known each other through Instagram and through the lives, but I definitely consider him a pal. We kicked off the first episode last August, and we didn't talk much about photography at all. I think we talked more about Nicolas Cage than we did photography.
oh,
But that was
definitely.
the first episode.
Oh, that's sweet.
Yeah, and then I had him on for the anniversary episode at this um, last one. Fuck, I lost track of. At the start of August, we did the anniversary episode.
Mm.
So two episodes, like you and then Alistair and then him. So 2 weeks ago, and he tried to get us off topic. He tried to talk about Nick Cage, but I was like, we need to talk about photography this time, man. Like, no more Cage talk this time around.
I
But it's
understand.
wild.
Fall
Oh,
into
sorry,
that.
go ahead.
Talk about. I could talk about Nick Cage for a while, so
Well, I mean,
I can see how it could happen.
he's the most majestic actor of our time.
Have you seen Mandy?
I've not seen Mandy yet. I've heard good things about it. I need to watch it.
You can't talk about Nicolas Cage until you watch Mandy.
Really?
Well, no, you can, but I mean, it's it's his best work, I think, personally.
Better than Con Air?
Oh, I haven't seen that.
You've never seen Con Air?
No,
Oh, man, have you seen Face Off?
no,
Oh man, okay. So what about The Rock?
no.
Okay, so you've got some homework on
I
Nicolas
have
Cage now.
some.
You need to check out Con Air, The
Okay,
Rock, and Face Off.
okay,
If any of those, like two of those three, you need to watch Con Air and Face Off
okay,
because Face Off is probably the most ridiculous movie premise in like a high budget movie
okay,
in this century.
okay.
She only watched with scary movies. Well, I mean, like Face Off is a little scary because like they cut people's faces off and then implant them on other people's faces, and so there's like a scene where there's like a Nicolas Cage with like he's just all muscle smoking a cigarette while he's like getting mad at a doctor for like stealing his face.
Wow. That
Yeah.
yeah, that's about right. That sounds like perfect for Nick Cage. Wow.
Yeah, it's
I
when
need.
Snake Eyes is another great Nicolas Cage one. He's a fantastic. But I will watch Mandy.
Yeah,
Um,
Mandy's amazing. Wow.
but it's been crazy. Like, it's over 50 episodes now so far since we started, and people still keep agreeing to spend an hour or so chatting with me about whatever comes up, and it's been
Yeah.
really cool to like be able to talk to so many different people and hear lots of different opinions and experiences.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, what a great way to create community, right? And celebrate photography during this time. Yeah. Yeah. Awesome.
Absolutely. And it's like not just another one of like, what's your favorite film stock?
Yeah.
What's
Yeah.
your what's the focal length that speaks the most to you?
Yeah.
What kind of gear do you have? Tell me
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. It's nice to delve into something deeper for sure.
Yeah, and it's also been kind of fun too to talk to people whose practices might be like photography adjacent as well too. I talked to a friend of mine, Julianne, earlier this year, and she does a lot of stop motion animation and stuff like that in Toronto. Her Instagram is foot to face, and
Okay.
she also does a ton of screen printing too.
Oh.
Her most popular one right now is guillotine shirts because fuck the rich.
Oh, I love
Um,
that. Wow, I
yeah,
didn't. Yeah.
if you want one of those, check out Foot to Face on Instagram. I think she still has some for sale.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, I definitely want that. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's
That,
cool. Like she's like, well, why do you want me in a photography show? I'm like, well, you use a camera when you're making this stuff, so it's like, that counts. I want to hear about your experience with
yeah.
it.
Yeah, totally. It's definitely still it's lens-based work, right? Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been great chatting with you, and yeah, we should when you're closer to Vancouver or whatever, catch up and go take some photos or something.
Yeah, that would be awesome. I'll let you know the next time I swing through.
Definitely. And if I'm headed to the island, I will definitely let you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Please do. Yeah.
Nice. Well, stay safe out there,
Thanks.
and enjoy the cone picking.
Thanks.
And yeah, thank you everyone for tuning in and spending some time with us. And next week, I'm going to have Alex Weber on the show. He runs a little studio in Chinatown in Vancouver called Doris is a Place. And he used to run the Remington studio on Hastings. And he does some very cool work there. So that'll be a pretty fun episode too, I think.
Very cool.
So. Awesome. Well, thanks for spending some time with me, and we'll talk soon. And I appreciate everyone out there. All right. Take care, Kelly.
Bye.
All right, bye.